Hulk Hogan and Terry Bollea are two different people. Hi, what's up, everybody? So this is my review of the Netflix documentary Hulk Hogan, The Real American. And I went into it a little bit of a couple of minds, not even two minds, more than that. Definitely an old school wrestling fan. I grew up with Hulk Hogan in the 80s and watched him throughout his career. Not up until the end, but for a very, very long time there. And also just curious about the angle of which this documentary was going to take, because I knew of the flaws and controversies that came out in the latter part of his career. And also a bit wondering how honest they're going to go. How much of this is going to be sugar-coated, how much of this is going to be authentic. And especially since he just recently passed away, I didn't know how much of it, how deep they were going to dig. And my suspicions were pretty accurate. They don't go very, very deep into the controversy. I kind of understand why. I wish they would have given it a little bit more diligence. I think for the sake of, dare I say, journalistic integrity, I think it kind of owed it to the entire story of Hulk Hogan and Terry Bollea. Because I think once you get to the last, because it's 4 episodes, once you get to that last 30-ish minutes, I think it does a really good job at highlighting kind of the redemption arc of him after everything that happened. And we'll kind of get through those details in a little bit. But it's 4 episodes long, as I said. It starts out, it's very, very linear. You know, just his early career, which I didn't know about. I actually learned a whole lot about the person himself, Terry Bollea, of how he started in the wrestling business. I knew a little bit about his music career before he got into wrestling. I didn't know he had a brother. I didn't know that his brother later on passed away of, I think it was drug addiction. And I really was incredibly naive as to his extracurricular activities outside of the ring. Like I said, I was a huge fan. I was there every single Monday when Monday Night Raw started. I was there every single Thursday for SmackDown. I even would go back and forth on Mondays between Raw and WCW's Monday Nitro. I was there like late 80s, as I can remember, up until maybe 93, 94. And then I kind of checked out. But when I heard that, you know, the great Hulk Hogan became a bad guy, that's when I was like instantly hooked again. I just, out of disbelief, I couldn't believe it. You know, like I had to watch it. And so as I'm tuning in to WCW's Monday Nitro, it kind of got the bug in me again. And then I tuned in for Monday Night Raw with the WWE. And then that was just my entire Monday night. And I have just nothing but fond memories about it. But kind of revisiting just the heights of Hulkamania, I thought, I forgot how huge he actually was. And then, you know, realizing how naive I was, because he even admits, you know, his drug use in the 80s, which of course would seem incredibly obvious, but with my, you know, childlike sensibilities revisiting something like that, it never occurred to me that that would be the case. Here's the guy that was like, you know, say your prayers, take your vitamins, you know, and believe in yourself. I would have never in a million years thought that, you know, he was that into the substances of choice during the 80s. And then now it's like, it just feels so obvious, right? But I think what was really, really well done, and even with Hulk himself appearing in the documentary as much as he is, I thought it was a really well done, basically how it really showed how kind of self-centered he was in the way of he needed to be the guy. He was not really interested in passing the baton or let anyone else have the spotlight. It needed to be him, you know, because he took the wrestling business into levels that no one else could ever really think of. Anytime somebody talks about the Mount Rushmore of wrestling, yes, he is in it, and then some of his contemporaries are there as well. But then you get somebody like a Stone Cold Steve Austin or Dwayne The Rock Johnson. And those two guys, the later guys, did reach some really interesting heights. But of course, when you think of where the level was and then the level that he took it to, it's just not even a comparison of how big Hulk Hogan was. And it was kind of tragic as well to see how far he had fallen, the health issues that he had to deal with. I think like 10 back surgeries. I remember hearing an interview with him recently where he talked about, like, yes, he was 6'7", but now with all the back surgeries, he's 6'3". Like his backbone and spine had just compressed so much that he lost 4 inches of height. And it was just really, really sad. But on the other side of it, once you see the arc, how he kind of picked up the pieces, not only after the professional downfall of his wrestling career in the WWE and WCW especially, but also his personal failures, his marriage falling apart, and then the sex tape that was released, the transcripts of the sex tape, shed some light on some other very, very unsavory aspects of his personality. And then you wonder how much of the negative parts of his personality were affected by the personal issues that he was experiencing at the time, and how dark and resentful he got about not just, in this particular case, a certain group of people, just people in general. It really seemed like he hated life. And when he even divulges of how he was like this close to unaliving himself, it really kind of shows the depth of which he'd fallen into. But like I said, then there's the redemption arc of how he understood the failings of the person he is, Terry Bollea, and Hulk Hogan. They're just completely different personalities, and how, okay, Terry Bollea really fell hard in this depth. I'm going to use the character of Hulk Hogan as almost like a beacon of light to aim towards. So then he just became that much more, he kind of fell into that inspirational aspect of that character to pull him out. And then kind of accepting how much of an effect the character of Hulk Hogan had on other people. And then he just kind of, had a resurgence in his career of just double downing on like appearances with people and just bringing that good feeling back to people. And I think Triple H said it best towards the end of the documentary when he said, people forget what you said, they forget what you did. In the end, they only remember how you made them feel. And the character of Hulk Hogan really did give people a sense of hope and a sense of inspiration. And that's what he dedicated, the latter years of his life to. And that I personally appreciated, being a lifelong wrestling fan. Anyways, those are my thoughts. What about you guys? Let me know what you think in the comments below. Smash that like button, give me a follow, and I'll see you guys next time.